Good evening. I'd like to thank the library system for organizing this forum and thanking all of you for spending this time with us so you can get to know us. In a uniquely American way, events like this provide voters with the direct access to candidates and allows them to ask questions they deserve answers. The challenges we faced at the Sheriff's Office since I was first elected in 2007 have been numerous, as law enforcement challenges always are. But thanks to all the people I'm lucky enough to serve with, we've met those challenges and continue to meet them every day. It would be a privilege and an honor to be allowed to continue serving the people of Sweetwater County as your sheriff, and for the Sheriff's Office to carry on its tradition of providing them the highest possible level of law enforcement they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. That is your Republican, Rich Haskell, and now your independent candidate for sheriff, David Johnson.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to start out by letting you all know a little bit about myself. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank the Sweetwater County Library System for hosting this. My name's Dave Johnson. I'm your independent candidate for sheriff. I graduated from Rock Springs in 1982. I then joined the Navy. I spent from 1982 to 1986 with naval aviation. I then came back. I went to work in the oil and gas industry till 1999. Then I joined the Sheriff's Office. I've been there for 15 years now. I earned the rank of sergeant in about 2007. During my career, I've worked on patrol as a supervisor, been involved in both tactical operations and boat patrol. I currently serve as the Sweetwater County Emergency Management Coordinator. I've been directly responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of our continued development of our plans, our emergency plans for the county. And I maintain department budget and grants. I have been instrumental in planning and carrying out a series of simulated disasters and exercises involving the cooperative efforts of many of the county's emergency services agencies. My role also includes overseeing the search and rescue, county search and rescue, our county dive team, the CERT team, which is our community emergency response team, the Sweetwater County Animal Response Team, and our amateur radio emergency services, which is our ham radio folks. In addition to these duties, I'm also the local emergency management planning committee chairman. I'm also on the state emergency commission serving as the chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear explosives subcommittee member. My experience working for the Sheriff's Office in emergency management has provided me with the work and knowledge to be an efficient leader of the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office and serving the people, and as your independent candidate, I hope to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, and once again, your independent candidate for sheriff, Sergeant David Johnson. Finally, with an opening statement, Chief of Police from the Rock Springs PD and your Democratic candidate for sheriff, Mike Lowell.
Hello, my name is Mike Lowell. I'm running for the office of sheriff, and I'm not running against anyone. I'm a 32-year veteran. I rose through the ranks and have been chief for 12 years. My agency is one of the 5 largest in the state, and certainly the busiest in southwest Wyoming. In addition to that, I also serve on the Wyoming School Facilities Commission, which is charged with the responsibility to build all schools and acquire all land for that purpose. I also serve on the task force on school safety and security appointed by Governor Meade. I'm also chairman of the board of a local financial institution. I'm past president of the Wyoming Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. I'm also a member of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And I serve on various committees and boards across the state that I think serve an economic or political purpose for our community. Thank you.
Can you please tell me what criteria would you use to determine the order of calls and cases to respond or pursue, and why?
Well, I would base it on the urgency of the call. You know, we want to serve everybody in a timely manner, but some calls, dictate if we're busy, obviously. We have a criteria of urgency, and obviously anything involving human safety, the safety of people, and that obviously takes a priority over a property So that would be my main concern, is make sure that our priority is public safety for people, and then step it down to crimes against property and then civil issues.
All right, thank you. Same question next. We'd like to have that answered by Chief Lowell.
I think if you had one of the largest agencies in the state, you have defined parameters. Of course, personal safety comes first, but we allocate our calls to the various sections of our city. So if it's an animal control call, non-emergency, it goes to animal control. If it's a weed and nuisance call, non-emergency, it goes to weed and nuisance. And believe me, weed and nuisance calls can be emergencies depending on who you're talking to. If it's a 95-year-old lady, you've got a real emergency on your hand. Street narcotics crimes, or those are allocated to the street narcotics units if it's not an emergency call. If it's a patrol call, then of course it's allocated by sector, by district, by particular experience of the officer on duty, so we have a varied response.
Thank you.
Very good, Chief. And finally, that question to Sheriff Haskell.
Of course, we have, it's a little different situation in the county because we're so spread out. And not a lot of people on duty at the same time, but of course number one would be personal injury or personal against persons. Then you have to break it down to accidents without injuries, non-priority calls, as an example, dog calls, barking dogs, and as the chief explained, depends on who the person is how the emergency is. So it would have to be personnel or personal injury, something happened to you would be the highest priority, and then we could just work it on down from there.
What percentage of time should a deputy spend inside the city limits?
Minimum. We have a county of 10,000 square miles, largest in the state, fifth largest in the country. Does that mean we're going to cover it? No, certainly we're going to get the backcountry first. The number one complaint I'm sure the sheriff receives will be the number of time deputy spends inside the city limits. We appreciate the help because we work together. We also think that a violation is seen, whether it's in the city limits or the county, that the officer who sees the violation takes that corrective action immediately, and then the jurisdictional person will take over. But the roles are defined, but law enforcement takes care of each other. So if I'm in the county and I see a violation, not my jurisdiction, but I am a reserve, I'm pulling it over. If it's more than a simple warning or ticket, I'm calling the sheriff. So does that mean that deputy should ignore that call in my city because of political pressure? Absolutely not.
All right, very good. And moving right along, we'll go to Sheriff Haskell. That same question, what percentage of the time should a deputy spend in the city limits?
Commissioners ask me that all the time.
And your answer is?
And my answer is, if a deputy, unfortunately, the office is in the city limits, and they have to come into the office to do reports and get paperwork and everything else. If a violation has been committed in their presence, they better not turn their head. They better act and do something about it. A minimal amount is all it takes, and they are doing that right now. We have 2 resident deputies in Wamsutter. We have a resident deputy in Farson, and the officers that are assigned to the Rock Springs area, our deputies, support those 2 entities also. So it's a minimal amount of time that they spend in the town. However, we have over 10,000 warrants issued by the courts. And unfortunately, most of those people that have warrants live within the city of Rock Springs or Green River. And they are going to serve those warrants in those 2 jurisdictions.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. And finally, let's pose that question to Sergeant Johnson.
Well, going along with the chief and the sheriff, the time will vary. Obviously, we can't overlook any infractions or violations that our deputies see when they're in town. And they have other responsibilities, like the sheriff said. Some of those responsibilities are serving warrants. They're also doing follow-up from things that happen in the county, but they may have to go into the city limits to find some of these subjects they need to finish up on their follow-up interviews with. They're also serving civil papers. So the percentage will vary. You can't set a set percentage, I don't believe. Minimal, yes, but depending on what the deputy is doing, he might spend a good portion of his day in the city limits. But I agree with the chief and the sheriff that it's minimal, but it's dictated by what they need to do.
How does the sheriff's office work in conjunction with the county attorney's office? And is there need for improvement? And if so, in what way?
I think we work hand in hand. Not only does the sheriff's office work hand in hand with them, so does the police department. All law enforcement works hand in hand with the county attorney's office in preparing the correct information they have to have in order to prosecute a case. We're constantly talking with them, they're talking with us. Meetings. How can we improve it? More communication. I think we need to talk more, not only just before the trials, but a little bit ahead of the trials, so that our officers and then the county attorney's office can be prepared to the best of their ability in order to prosecute that case successfully.
All right, very good, sir. Let me pose that question next to Sergeant Johnson regarding the sheriff's office working in conjunction with the county attorney's office.
Well, I agree with the sheriff. We got to work hand in hand with the county attorney's office. Obviously, there is communication issues sometimes. That always is, no matter where we work, we find out there's communication issues. But we work well together. We need to work with them on the cases. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the county attorneys want something and they feel we need to, give them a little more, and it'll clash sometimes. But, that's something you got to work through. Just like the sheriff and the county attorney, it changes every 4 years sometimes, and you just plug forward and you keep working on that communication.
All right, very good, sir. Finally, Chief Lowell.
I think from a law enforcement executive's perspective, you try to present a case to the county attorney that is ready to go to trial. During those conversations, oftentimes they will want something more from you. You, of course, go out and get that information, because the goal for you is to have that case ready so they can proceed. Now, it's not about conviction, unhappiness because you didn't get the amount of prison time or what you wanted. All an executive is really concerned about is, does the system function? Does the victim get what he needs? Does the suspect get what he needs? If there's a deal being made, does that deal benefit both sides? Is it economically smart to make that move, and it's done? Our volume at the PD is so heavy that we don't take an interest in whether you like the outcome or not. I'm more concerned with the process and making sure everybody has their pay.
What process would you use to determine advancements and promotions?
Well, what we need to do is establish a core of eligible candidates within the department. Right now, we do testing and interviews. It's based on a wide variety of different things, report writing skills. Obviously, are they a natural leader or capable of leadership? And when we need to advance somebody or promote them, we take that efforts and we do the process of testing and interviewing, and we go from there.
All right, very good, sir. Let me move right along to Chief Lowell once again. What process would you use to determine advancements and promotions?
I prefer a number of things. I prefer assessment centers, which is a way of establishing your ability to communicate orally and in writing in your decision-making process. We do a written test. I like an oral interview for a board with people from outside the law enforcement community. We're representing what you may have. A minister, again, a member of the Civil Service Commission. I like to see your latest evaluations, and I like your last body of work, and I like formal recommendations from the division commanders. And then we have a sit-down, we have a consensus. I testing is done.
All right, very good. Finally, Sheriff Haskell, that same question to you.
As the chief mentioned, we have an assessment center that's done by the Wyoming Law Enforcement Academy, and they come down and administer a written test to the candidates. Years of service are a big factor, experience. We also have oral boards, and we go outside for the oral boards. We children, people from the Rock Springs Police Department, Green River Police Department, people within the same industry and the same makeup that we have at the Sheriff's Office. Also, their evaluations are a key factor. As Sergeant Johnson said, report writing is pretty important. And to be able to understand and read a report that has been written so that you can okay it or you can send it back to be updated.
What, if any, educational and treatment programs do you support for jail inmates?
I like diversion in any form. I like detoxification in any form. I prefer anything that limits my cost of taking you to jail. I like drug court. Been in since the beginning. In the world of law enforcement, you have two choices. Under the current doctrine, if I arrest you and get you into, it's a way of getting you into the system and ensuring that in front of a judge, you will have the option for treatment if you're not a felon, if you're not a violent person, and if you don't have a long-term history. I certainly think that's a good idea because it's called the world of forced choices. You have a choice, go to jail, go to treatment. If the second way is, and the way that I think we should be working toward is let's have diversion prior to jail. Let's not go to jail, because if you go to jail, first thing we're going to see, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose part of your family. So if we can take you and step you aside from that, with the court's permission, and the county attorney's permission, I see that thing out there. Anyway, you know, I haven't got my glasses on, pal, so I can't really read that. Anyway, I like diversion in any form. I think it's economically the most viable way to go. Certainly, it's better for families.
All right, thank you, Chief. Moving right along. Next, we'll pose this to Sheriff Haskell. What, if any, educational and treatment programs do you support for jail inmates?
We have several programs right now at the jail. Inmates are able to get their GED. We have JBX, which is jail-based mental programs. We have drug rehabilitation programs. There are a number of classes and things that are going on. Southwest Counseling comes in and does classes in there. We're so busy with classes in there that we're moving people constantly to the different programs so that they can progress. And part of court sentencing, a lot of times, is anger management and those types of classes, and they are provided for the inmates in order for them to even be considered for probation or whatever else. They have to meet these things before the court will release them. But there are a number of programs going on at the jail right now.
Very good. Finally, let me direct that same series of questions to Sergeant Johnson.
Well, in order to shorten time and eliminate some redundancy here, I agree with both the sheriff and the chief on these programs. And the sheriff's right, the programs we do have are good programs. And the chief's right that, you know, working these programs and keeping people out of jail saves the county money in the long run. A lot of these programs are cheaper than housing the inmates. So I don't really have much to add to that because they both covered it pretty well, but I'm definitely in support of all those programs.
All right, thank you, Sergeant. Let me get back to Beth Whitman. Does that satisfactorily answer your question now?
Well, I have an additional question.
Why don't you-
What about counseling? What do you look at for counseling?
No, thank you very much, ma'am. And let's begin the rebuttals with that follow-on question, and we'll send that to Chief Lowell, sir.
I think, let's go to rebuttal for a minute, okay? One of the things that concerns me as an executive is the cost that I incur in incarceration of inmates. I am the largest supplier in the county, and my city is, that any program that can divert from incarceration, I'm in total support of. all programs that the PD currently sponsors outside incarceration include counseling. There's never anything that doesn't include counseling, not one program.
All right, thank you, Chief. Either of those two questions or anything in rebuttal, Sheriff Haskell.
We appreciate your money too, Chief. It helps a lot. So we have a lot of counseling go on at the jail at this time, through Southwest Counseling, through independent counseling in the county. We've got to have, you have to have it.
I have a two-part question. What measures can be taken to reduce juvenile crime? And along with that, what is the next step in combating underage drinking?
First part was what again?
What measures can be taken to reduce juvenile crime?
Education, I think, is a lot of it, and getting parents involved. We just had a thing at the fairgrounds, and an open house for the parents to come in and see what was going on with their kids in school. I think we had a half a dozen parents show up, which is really not very well when it involves your children, what's going on and being taught in the schools. And the second part,
What is the next step in combating underage drinking?
we just have to get more education and more involved with the children at a younger age.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Let me direct that question next to Sergeant Johnson regarding reducing juvenile crime and also specifically underage drinking.
Well, like the sheriff said, a big part of it, and I agree wholeheartedly, is getting parents involved. We see it all the time. You know, we go out, we bust up these kegers, we call the parents to come get these kids. A lot of these parents are offended that we're wasting their time to come out and get their kids when they're just out having a good time. So a big part of it is getting the parents involved, public awareness, and like the sheriff said, we continue with this program, Life Are You Ready? We give these young folks, pre-high school, the opportunity to learn about the consequences of their decisions. That's what a big part of that program is. But he's right, we did have a horrible turnout of parents for that open house, and that's a big thing we got to work on, is getting more involvement from the parents with these kids. We are not there to be their babysitters and their caretakers. We got to get involvement from those parents. And that's a community thing. That's something we all got to work together with, and I think we're headed the right direction the first year with this Life Are You Ready program.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Johnson. And finally, let me go to Chief Lowell regarding reducing juvenile crime and specifically also underage drinking. Your thoughts?
I think there's five parts of the approach. I think it begins with, for us, and the PD is beginning the 5th and 6th grade level of DARE. I think we teach that to almost 800 students. We also provide free summer camps for children, and they're full. We also do some logistical support for a high school summer camp. We also have a daytime curfew ordinance which says that if you, by statute, should be in school, then that's where you should be. We also, I think that Regarding Ready for Life is the next transition. I think it is the most positive thing I've seen come along. We get 700 children in that program. And if you haven't been, I would encourage you to go because it's stunning what goes on. I think as far as alcohol, the 2 grants we work through the performance grants, the Wyoming Sheriff's and Chiefs of Police, and the UDO grant. I think number 1 is delay the onset of the first drink. Because all studies show if you delay the onset of the first drink, your chances of addiction are greatly lower. Second thing is stop having events where the point of emphasis is selling alcohol, otherwise you couldn't have the event, because that's the silliest thing I've ever heard, and it continues to go on like that. And the third or last thing is a zero tolerance program at the high school level, because all grants that you get for alcohol and substance abuse are based on a zero tolerance. Why would you continue? Because we can go on for this for hours.
So let's begin right here. Based, I would say, on talk throughout the town and a lot of talk online, it seems to be an 800-pound gorilla in the room
Yes,
that everybody's talking about, but it's not being talked about. So let me pose this to Sheriff Haskell. Did, and if so, why, did you not put the $6,000 worth of prepared Christmas cards out for bid? Sheriff, you would care to address that?
Sure, I did put them out for bid, and I went to several sources to try to get the cheapest price. And I wanted to have them a little more personalized than what you could get a commercial one. And it happened to be with my daughter-in-law, and that was the cheapest price, and it was okay by the commission at the time, and I went forward with it.
Very good. And I guess I would direct this next to Sergeant Johnson. Any thoughts regarding that topic?
No, I don't have any thoughts other than I'd probably go down to Walgreens and buy some cheap cards and sign my name to them.
Very good. And finally to Chief Lowell, anything in follow, and does that satisfactorily answer that question for you, sir?
Yeah, I can't buy cards, so that's prohibited by municipal ordinance. So if I buy cards, I buy them out of my pocket.
Others, before the debate tonight and during now, would like you to address the other allegations of misuse of funds and allegations floating around about past theft or even more recent allegations.
Now, let me jump in if I may. Deb, do you know exactly who this is directed to?
No, these both came.
Okay. So to be fair, I tell you to be fair, how about if we direct this to Sergeant Johnson first? Any allegations, I guess, from either department regarding misuse of funds? Sergeant Johnson.
All I can speak for is my department, emergency management. As far as I know, there hasn't been any misallocation of funds or theft of funds. So I don't have anything else I can really say about that. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Sergeant. Let me go now to Chief Lowell regarding any allegations of misuse in funds, either in your department with the RSPD or the Sheriff's Office.
No, there are three areas that are key to success in any law enforcement organization. One is integrity-based leadership. What that means is you do things at the right time in the right way for the right reasons. The second is your accountability. So you as the executive are responsible for everything that does or does not happen in your agency, whether you're there or not. Can you assign some of the responsibility for an individual task? Certainly, but you're still responsible for it. The third is transparency. Everything you do must stand the light, so your budget's got to be tight, clear-fisted, you've got to be tough on them. You have to, if you say you're going to buy it, then you in fact have to buy it. We have to prove it. It's simple to say, but you have to constantly struggle to maintain those three areas. Other than that, I have no response.
Every penny that is spent with the Sheriff's Office has to be okayed by the County Commission. The County Commission has okayed every expenditure that the Sheriff's Office has made.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Moving right along, this next question is directed initially to Chief Lowell. With regards to accountability and transparency, how do you respond to the allegations made by law enforcement officers regarding one of your supervisors having an affair with a member of the attorney's office, causing at least 3 cases to be pledged, including at least 1 homicide, with no reprimand to the staff supervisor? Chief Lowell.
Wyoming statute prohibits me from talking about any kind of personnel issue in the public forum. So what I will tell you is the same thing we do on any internal investigation. 1, we accept any complaint, written, anonymous, or otherwise. 1, that complaint is investigated, and there are 3 findings. 1, it happened. 2, it did not happen, or we can't prove it. That's it. Any decision from then on is based solely on my discretion, and I don't discuss personnel issues at all.
Thank you, Chief. Same question. Any thoughts? Sheriff Haskell.
As the Chief said, state statute does not allow an administrator to discuss any personnel matters.
Very good. Finally, Sergeant Johnson.
Same.
Thank you, sir. Deb Sutton, please.
This first question will be answered by Sheriff Haskell.
All right, and Teresa Thibault?
My question is, how would you handle misconduct by one of your employees?
And I believe that is first to Sheriff
Sheriff
Haskell.
Haskell.
Misconduct is, first we have the allegation, then we have the investigation, the internal investigation done by the office, or if we feel necessary, we go to an outside agency to do that investigation so that there is absolutely no bias whatsoever as far as the department is concerned. If there are factors that say there has been wrongdoings and it's proven, then we take corrective action to take care of that, whether it be time off, days off, paid, without pay, even up to termination.
All right, very good. Sergeant Johnson?
The procedures are pretty cut and dry, like the sheriff said. I don't know how the Rock Springs PD handles these cases. I'm sure it's pretty close to the same. But you get the allegation, you investigate it. If you need to bring in an outside agency to do that investigation, you come to a conclusion, and then you take the appropriate action, whether, like the sheriff said, it stays off up to termination.
Very good, sir. And finally, Chief Lowell.
Police department has a policy on misconduct, but misconduct has to be defined. And we're unique that we're a civil service agency, so by policy, any and all complaints are investigated. No matter how particularly frivolous they are, or you think they're frivolous, they're still investigated. Once they're investigated, it goes to the chain of command. It's endorsed by every division commander. And once that's done, it's reviewed by the Civil Service Commission. Once that's done, it's reviewed by me. Okay, and then I come back for any questions I have, and then we take whatever appropriate action, if any, is done.
Where is it Dominic?
Well, I was just curious, what is everybody's stance on allowing teachers and school faculty members to possibly have training to carry against their firearms?
And Sergeant Johnson, that's you first. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I actually answered that question earlier today on my Facebook page, and it's a frequently asked question apparently, but I'm a proponent of it. Obviously, there's got to be some very specific guidelines. You know, it's got to be in coordination with the state. We need to get some good tactical training from the. You know, we have a great firearms instruction team here that can teach those tactical trainings to the teachers. And of course, you got to have teachers that want to volunteer for it. Other than that, I'm a big proponent of it. I think if we had, armed teachers, it'll curtail some of this. It's been proven, worldwide. You don't see schools in Israel being attacked. They definitely are armed over there, and they are surrounded on three sides by, somebody that wants to see them gone. It works. And I think if we have the armed teachers and it's posted at the schools that the teachers carry arms, then that will curtail some of these school shootings, I believe.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Johnson. Same question, Chief Lowell.
I think that a bunch of things have to happen. One, it was tried 2 legislations ago and failed miserably. Up and down, right and left, even the governor didn't endorse it too. So if the legislation comes forward that it's factually based, reflective, intellectual, students agree, or it's not students, but some of the staff agrees, however, giving blanket authority to all in the school to carry weapons, absolutely not. I don't think blanket authority is an appropriate thing. To elect administrators, if the legislation, if the policy is factually based, they agree. Let me tell you, in my 30 plus years, the #1 issue was always use of force, deadly force. The constant training we do, constant questioning of officers, constant understanding of the liabilities you face. The other thing is, you have an incident, all of us are bound to help each other at whatever school it is. We know each other. We don't know those staffs, and I can assure you, if we go into a school and you are waving a gun, there is going to be carnage beyond belief for law enforcement. So I'm not a fan of blanket authority. I don't think that works. I think it has to be narrowly defined.
All right, thank you, Chief. And finally, let me direct this to Sheriff Haskell regarding your stance on teachers and school staff carrying concealed weapons at school.
I don't think that decision belongs in law enforcement's hands. Either the sheriff's office, police department, DCI, or anybody else. That is a decision that has to be made by the school board and by the school administration. If they make that decision for that to happen, I would strongly support having a class that we offer to the general public and also an advanced class to teach them how to handle the firearms. One of the biggest problems that I can see is you get, and you see it every day, people will wave the gun around, oh, I got a gun, I have a gun, I have a gun. Well, that's the biggest mistake that you can make because they're the first target. Because everybody knows they have a gun, we take him out, and then we're all able to do what we want to in the school. So there has to be policies, there has to be training, there has to be guidelines that make that happen if it does happen. But I do support that if that happens.
Anything in rebuttal, Chief Lowell?
No, I don't think it's a local decision. I think it's a states' rights issue. I think it's going to have to come through the governor's office. I think it's going to have to come back by the legislature. I think if it's approved, it should be mandated statewide. There should be no exceptions to the rule.
Thank you. And anything in closing, Sheriff Haskell?
No, sir.
All right. Where is Wendy at? Wendy Miller? Ma'am, would you care to read this, or would you like me to?
You can.
Okay. Great follow-on, Wendy. Thank you. Gentlemen, and I believe this is going first to
Chief Lowell.
Chief Lowell. Thank you. A lot of talk, a lot of emphasis about the Second Amendment. What are your thoughts on the Fourth Amendment?
As in regards to what? What do you want to know? What?
Wendy, anything specifically regarding the Fourth Amendment that is an issue of concern for you?
Just possibly, like the abuse of power, like where's the line drawn where search warrants are issued? Is it a public concern? Is it a safety concern? Is it imminent danger?
Well, okay. Nobody issues more warrants in the county than the city of Rock Springs applies for search and seizure warrants. We teach the class on it. I think that the issue you have to remember is that we are not a member of the Palouse Army. I'm a hometown municipal police department. I enforce the law because the people submit to my authority. If I don't do search warrants out of hand, our warrants are on violent offenders and narcotics uses, but we are successful because we don't abuse the process. And we write our own, the judge approves them, and believe me, there's no judge in this town will give you blanket approval for anything on a search warrant. They are fine lines scrutinized, and you are held to a standard that is unbelievable.
All right, thank you, Chief. Gentlemen, once again, if I could encourage you to try to talk as directly at the microphone as possible. It seems that some of our guests at the back are still having a tough time hearing. Let me pose that same question to Sheriff Haskell regarding your thoughts on the Fourth Amendment and particularly warrants.
As the chief has already said, search warrants are not just blanketly given out. A judge scrutinizes them, and before the judge scrutinizes them, we take them to the county attorneys and have them look them over to see if they're going to fly. Unfortunately, we do have to issue search warrants, and unfortunately, we do have to come into people's homes and into their private areas and be able to get evidence that we have to further the investigation. But just to violate a search warrant, absolutely we do not, and do not encourage it.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Finally, Sergeant Johnson, your thoughts on the Fourth Amendment and obtaining a warrant.
Well, I definitely agree with the chief and the sheriff that the last thing we want to do is violate people's Fourth Amendment rights. We feel, and I agree, that when we are in our house, that we should be able to feel safe there. There is stringent guidelines to obtaining a search warrant. You got to have your search warrant written up. It's got to be approved by a judge. He's not just going to sign it. And, you know, that warrant is executed. But we definitely, everybody makes sure that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and that we do it right. If we start abusing that and making lots of mistakes and getting sloppy, we're definitely going to lose the faith and trust of the citizens in the county, and that's one thing we don't want to do.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Johnson. Anything in rebuttal, Chief Lowell?
No, thank you.
Sheriff?
Well, we'll not only lose the faith of the community, but we'll lose the cases. The evidence that we have gathered will be, no, you can't use it in the case. So we have to police ourselves to make sure that that information is correct and that we don't violate people's constitutional rights. Any of them.
Thank you, Stilly.
Thank you, Johnny. This question, and I know this is tough for all of us, you know, in the business of public service. How would you speed up the process of resolving cases?
Hire more judges. It's tough, Mayor. It really is tough to speed up the process. Unfortunately, the courts are so backlogged, and the county attorney's office is so backlogged that we just have to unfortunately live with it until we can improve the system itself.
I give you a field promotion, and he takes it away. Let me move right up. Did that adequately answer your question?
Well, he said more judges. What else could you do to, you know, enhance the process?
All right, let me get back to Sheriff Haskell. Anything other than adding more judges, Sheriff? I mean, within the capacity of your job, is there actually anything you can do?
Well, there are diversion programs that could speed things along. As been stated earlier this evening, a lot of diversion programs that we can utilize to not clog up the courts. And until those diversions, we can get the people into those diversion programs, but you still have to have a judge in order to see or to get the folks into that diversion program.
All right, very good, Sheriff. And back to Sergeant Johnson, how would you speed up the process of resolving cases?
Well, like as was stated, you know, with the backlog of cases, everybody's entitled to due process, but with such a large caseload, as mentioned, you have to work within your means. We have county attorneys, they work these cases with the law enforcement, but it all boils down to just having, you know, the judges that are available to deal with the cases and get these cases expedited and taken care of.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Johnson. Finally, Chief Lowell, any thoughts you have on speeding up the process of resolving cases?
Sure, I think 80% of everything we do at the PD level is connected with substance abuse in one form or another. So diversification, detoxification, detoxification are important. The second thing is, sometimes policemen, we do a terrible job of presenting cases. So we have to go back and forth to the county attorney 3 or 4 times. So we try, I think, for us, we have to take care of our own house, make sure that what we present is a quality product to them, and they feel comfortable with making a deal or going ahead with the prosecution or whatever they're going to do. So.
This is a wonderful question, anonymous from the audience, and this is going first to Sergeant Johnson. Sergeant, how do you feel about lapel and body cameras on your officers or deputies?
I think cameras are a great tool. We've had them for a while. You know, it helps with the cases. It also, you know, keeps our officers in check. It's, you know, it's a great tool. I highly recommend it. We will always continue using that. That technology is getting better. They're getting cheaper. The audio and the video is getting better. And I'm a big proponent of using the video cameras on our officers. I think it's a great tool. It helps us in our cases, and it helps our officers. You know, if anybody accuses them of any wrongdoing, it'll be on that video.
All right, very good. Chief Lowell, your thought on body and lapel-mounted cameras for your officers or deputies?
We already use them. We also use in-the-car cameras. We have definitive policies For instance, cameras will hook up when you exceed the speed limit, or you turn on your red lights, or you leave the car and there's contact made. So we not only use the body camera, but they use the in-car video camera, because it certainly solves a lot of problems when a person claims they didn't do what's on video. It also solves the issue of your officer. Your officer is then forced to play by the rules and be a credible source, so it serves two purposes. And both of them from an executive point of view, like, and we also keep those, we maintain those, all those recordings, all of them, which are tremendous for at least 180 days.
Very good, Chief. Finally, Sheriff Haskell, your thoughts on body mount or lapel cameras for officers?
I think they're outstanding. We're in the process right now of, I believe, trying several of them, checking out which one's going to be the best. But we've always, as the Chief said, we've always had in-car cameras that are functioning. And it's amazing, an officer does not want to go to court and say he did this when on film it says he did that. That's the most embarrassing thing that you could possibly do. So cameras, whether they're on your person or in the vehicle, have to work all the time. You have to use them. And we have a policy that will happen.
Chief, how do you separate personal feelings from affecting actions at work?
I think, well, your oath requires you that you can't, there's no personal things involved. For RSPD guys, we come to the door, we put our face on, okay, and we try to get through whatever the issue is. For instance, the last particularly gruesome child abuse, it's a FaceTime. Once we do that, we have counseling. Once we do that, we go back to the officer and talk to him again. We also bring in our communicators. So it's all about professionalism. Strike the pose. It's not that you're unconcerned, but you have to be able to get through what you're going to get through and be able to survive it.
All right, thanks, Chief. Let me direct that same question now to Sheriff Haskell regarding how do you separate your personal feelings from affecting your actions at work?
That's really hard to do because you have a family, and as the Chief said, you roll up on an accident or a really terrible child abuse, you kind of reflect back, wow, this could be my family. One of the things that I dreaded the most while I was on patrol was getting called to an accident and finding my family involved in that accident. Personal feelings, you're going to have personal feelings. There's no way that you can get around it. But your reactions at work, you have to leave them alone, and you have to do the professional training and everything else that you've been trained to do, and let that kick into action to dictate what happens with the call or with employees or whatever else.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. The same question to Sergeant Johnson regarding separating your personal feelings from affecting your actions at work.
It's hard to do. We're human beings too. We have feelings, but you do have to check your feelings at the door when you're on certain cases. I've worked suicides. I've worked sexual assaults, child abuse. We're not there to be judge and jury. We're there to gather facts, write those facts up, submit them to the courts, and let the judge and the attorneys deal with that. It's not easy to do, but you do it. And that is one of the reasons why the suicide rate's high with law enforcement officers, because of the things they do have to deal with. And, we have a good program within the Sheriff's Department where our folks can talk to professionals and help, unburden themselves with some of those emotions that get stored up. But we are human, and we do have to check those at the door. I mean, if we let our feelings get in the way and our emotions, we jeopardize people's rights. So that's the big thing. Keep it at the door.
Anything in rebuttal, Chief Lowell?
I think one of the things that helps the most is if you remember that in this day, you are much more than a law enforcement officer. So you get a chance to talk with a senior who has medical issues or has prescription issues. You can take those things and sort them out. You can do that for them in the morning. You at the Family Justice Center. So not only do you take care of the issue and the short-term solution, but you can be involved in the long-term solution. So you're much better off now than you were early in my career, where it was all about get in, get the mess cleaned up in the short term, move on to the next call. Nowadays, it's much better to be seen as a source of additional services. I think that does wonders for the agency and the long-term health of the police officer.
All right, thanks, Chief. Any rebuttal, Sheriff?
No, sir.
And Sergeant Johnson?
No, sir.